Good evening and welcome to Registration 101 with your hosts Michael Mason and Aaron Baker. My name is Nancy DiUlio and we're all from the Office of Undergraduate Studies and welcome you to Case Western Reserve. This evening, our hosts will discuss the process for you to select and register for your fall courses. In addition, we'll take your questions and answer them live, so please email any questions you might have to summerreghelp@case.edu. Now to your hosts, Michael and Aaron.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Registration 101 this evening. My name is Michael Mason.
And I'm Aaron Baker.
And we are from the Office of Undergraduate Studies here at Case Western Reserve University. We want to be among the first to welcome you to Case Western Reserve and also invite you again, as was discussed earlier, to contact us this evening with any questions that you might have about summer registration. The goal of our program this evening is to provide you with some essential information that you'll use throughout the summer to help you get prepared to register. But we also just hope to introduce ourselves to you so that you know who we are and you feel comfortable contacting us whenever you have any questions. So a little bit about our office before we go into the details here. Again, we are the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and our office consists of deans, coordinators, and pre-professional advisors. Our mission is pretty straightforward. We really just do everything that we can to help make sure that all undergraduates are able to make the most of their entire academic experience here at Case Western Reserve University. And we work collaboratively with our colleagues, the faculty, who deliver academic advising to all their students to help make sure that we provide the most comprehensive support and information to our students through the academic advising process. So we're here to help is sort of the bottom line here. You can see listed I, along with Aaron and other colleagues, coordinators of the various residential colleges, make up the first-year team in the Office of Undergraduate Studies. So you'll be working with us throughout your entire first year.
Mm-hmm. And the first-year coordinators, they operate out of the residence halls. So you'll have access to them in the residential complex that you're assigned. So that way you can access resources on academic policies, talk through your experience so far in your first and second semesters in an area that's really convenient for you. And so that is going to be, for me, in Cedar, and then as listed on the PowerPoint for the other residential colleges. So tonight we're going to overview a list of very important topics. The first being the important dates and deadlines that I'm sure that you're all very interested in, making sure that you're on top of your summer requirements. We'll talk about what it means to get a degree in a major here at Case Western Reserve University. We'll overview the general education requirements, including our SAGES seminar program. We'll kind of touch on some highlights from our first year registration guide, and we'll talk about course registration. Again, if you have any questions during this time, please feel free to send them our way via email with the subject line info session.
All right, so I'll head right into some important deadlines here. Right now on the new student checklist, in progress, we have the APIB scores and the evaluation of college credit items. So for the APIB scores, by June 1st, we just wanted you to let us know whether or not we should expect to receive scores from you, and also just make sure that you've done your part to indicate to those agencies that they should send us your scores when they become available. So as long as you've done that part, right now we're just sort of waiting. Usually right around July 1st, we will get those scores from either the College Board or an International Baccalaureate. And once we receive them, we will upload those into our SIS so that the credit will be posted. You'll also be able to track the arrival of those scores through the new student checklist as well. Also, the evaluation of college credit. If you have submitted any courses to us to be looked at for the possibility of transfer credit here at Case Western Reserve, progress you can track through the evaluation of college credit item. But so far, as long as you've submitted the form to us along with the transcripts and any course descriptions or course syllabi, that's sort of in progress right now. We will wrap up those evaluations by the end of this month. Coming up in a week, we have the due date for the math diagnostic exam. So hopefully you've taken that already, and if not, you still have about 7 days to do it. But that helps us to help you know where to start your study of calculus or pre-calculus, as the case may be, here at Case Western Reserve University. Then coming up at the end of June, or actually the beginning of July, July 1st, several other items that you should complete if they apply to you. So for the writing sample, that's part of the SAGE's self-directed placement item on the new student checklist. You want to make sure you download information about the writing prompt, submit the prompt, and then also answer the series of questions that follow to indicate whether you want to take a topical first seminar or possibly a foundations seminar in the fall semester. If you're planning on taking a foreign language course in the fall, specifically a course in either Chinese, French, German, Spanish, or Russian, you can take a Web CAPE exam on the new student checklist. Those exams should be active in the coming days. But if you take one of those exams, again, you just want to make sure that that's something you're planning on doing in the fall. If you were planning on taking a language course maybe in the spring or in a future semester, you'd want to hold off on taking one of those placement exams until a point in time that's closer to when you're going to begin studying that language here at Case Western Reserve. Also, the information for advisors survey. So this is a survey that you should complete. Give us an idea of the things you're interested in studying, as well as just some other information about you. And I think the best part, the most informative part for us, as far as this survey is concerned, is the information, the letter that you'll write to your future first-year advisor to let them know a little bit about you, who you are as a person, not just as a student, but as a whole person, the things you're interested in, the goals that you have, the questions that you have, the things you're concerned about. It gives us information to pass along to your advisor so they know more about you when they meet you during orientation in August. Then the big dates as far as registration is concerned, registration will open at 9 a.m. on July 12th and run through 11:59 p.m. on the 15th. During that time, what you'll do is go log into SIS, which you should get familiar with now or between now and the opening of registration. You'll log in there, you'll register for all of your courses except for your SAGE's first seminar. Once you've registered for your courses in SIS, you'll go, the next step will be to go into the new student checklist, go back to that SAGE's first seminar item, and there's a link there where you'll be directed to a portal that will show you all the complete list of the SAGE's first seminars that fit with your existing schedule in SIS, and from that list you will indicate to us 4 choices for a SAGE's first seminar. And the thing to note there is that if you happen to make changes to your schedule in SIS after you've indicated your 4 first seminar choices, that's not a problem. All you need to do is go back into the checklist and update that list of first seminar choices so that we can make sure the choices you've made don't conflict with any of your other courses. And that also applies if you're going back and you're looking at the list of seminars and you had thought that your existing schedule would have made a particular seminar available to you, but it's not showing up in the list. You can always go back into SIS, adjust your course schedule as possible, and then update your first seminar choices. After the registration period is concluded, we will go through the process. That's Aaron and I and the rest of our colleagues in undergraduate studies. We'll go through the process of reviewing your schedule one at a time, making sure that the courses you've chosen for the fall align and are appropriate for the things that you're planning on studying. If there were any questions about those selections, we would reach out to you and ask questions and work together to refine those choices. And once that's been completed, sometime in early August, mid-August, you'll see that one of those 4 choices of SAGE's first seminars that you made on the checklist will appear in your schedule in place of that FSCC 850 placeholder that's on there right now. You'll see the SAGE's first seminar appear. Again, one of those 4 choices that you've made during the registration period. So now I'm going to turn it over to Aaron, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about sort of big picture, what's a degree at Case Western Reserve University?
So, degrees at Case Western Reserve University are made up of several components. If you look at the diagram, you'll see 4 columns. On the left, there are some characteristics that kind of apply to all students at Case Western Reserve University. Students will accrue credit hours. The total number of credit hours required for a degree will range depending on the school or college that the student is taking their major studies here at Case Western Reserve University. They will accrue a GPA And a certain number of credit hours need to be taken in residence to meet the residency requirement, meaning those classes or courses will be taken at Case Western Reserve University. And they will also need to meet the general education requirements. That is made up of the SAGES seminar and physical education, as well as the breadth requirements, which as determined by school or College of Arts and Sciences. More individually, students will elect to study a major, and that major will have its own requirements for students in terms of the courses that they'll take over the course of their career here at Case Western Reserve University. And when time allows or interest wanders, students will have the opportunity to select open electives or additional coursework as determined by them, and also in conjunction with their first-year advisor or faculty advisor to see what is best for their experience. So general education requirements, they're made up of several components: the SAGES seminar, which we will talk about here in a bit, and physical education requirements. There are a wide variety of physical education requirements available for students, and so if you're interested in perusing that list, you'll be able to find that information in the first year registration guide. Additionally, each school or the College of Arts and Sciences here at Case Western Reserve University have a certain set of breadth requirements, and those courses will fall into arts and humanities, social sciences, natural and mathematical sciences, quantitative reasoning, global cultural diversity, and in the School of Engineering there is a set of engineering core requirements. Now, SAGES is an aspect of your academic career here at Case Western Reserve University that you'll start in your first semester and continue throughout the tenure here until you receive your degree. SAGES stands for Seminar Approach to General Education and Scholarship. And this program really focuses on a broad array of skills, knowledge, and issues that Case Western Reserve University really considers to be important for all graduates to experience. These seminars help develop essential communication skills over the course of these semesters by participating in seminar discussions, giving presentations, and writing intensively. You'll begin the program in your first seminar here in your first semester at Case Western Reserve University. As Michael mentioned, there is a placeholder already on your course registration, FSCC 850, and that's used to reserve time for the seminar's fourth hour. It is a 4 credit hour course, and it will meet 4 hours a week. That fourth hour will be on either Monday, Wednesday, or Friday from 12:45 to 2 p.m. The placeholder will kind of put a hold on your calendar so you don't schedule over it for all Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And once your specific designation for first seminar has been finalized, it will only reflect the specific day that you'll need to have scheduled or reserved for that class.
Okay, so now I'd like to highlight some pieces of the first year registration guide, which I think you'll find particularly helpful. Not that the entire guide isn't very helpful, but these are some of the things that you might want to look at first as you're thinking about courses for the fall semester. So there are schedule recommendations, and that's broken out by major. So for every major, we have a set of recommendations, both fall and spring. You could take a look at those and see where you might fit in, if there are any sequential things or if there are any options, choices you have to make. There's also information about the general education requirements that Aaron just described, so about SAGES program and also the breadth requirements. We have a set of frequently asked questions, so things that students often want to know about registration or about academics, about academic requirements and policies. Take a look at those FAQs and you might find a lot of the questions that you have, others have had in the past, and we've provided answers to in the registration guide. There's this thing, an aspect, component of the SIS system called the shopping cart, which is kind of like exactly what it sounds. It's an opportunity, it's a tool that you can use to plan your fall semester courses. You can go through now and start placing courses into your shopping cart, and this just sort of preps them puts them in place for you to be able to register for them when registration opens on July 12th. So you can use this as a really helpful planning tool. And there's a set of instructions, sort of a step-by-step how-to guide for using the shopping cart, and also a step-by-step how-to for how to register for actual courses so that you won't go in the morning of registration and be feeling it out for the first time. There are also instructions in the registration guide for choosing the appropriate course sequence. So for some of you who might be taking courses in subjects like math, chemistry, and physics, you might have noticed that there are multiple sequences that are available to students. And so depending on your intended majors and other aspects, you might choose one over the other. And so we've provided some specific instructions to help you make some of those decisions. The other thing to note about some of the information that is in the first year registration guide is when it comes to, the schedule recommendations or other pieces of advice that are contained in the guide, you can be assured that these are advising notes that are, passed along to us by the faculty advisors in those particular departments. So as you're looking at a schedule, not only is it going to have a grid that shows you courses to take in fall and spring, but it's also going to have a set of notes that accompany it that give you some more nuanced information about some of the choices that you have to make or some considerations as you're thinking about which courses to select. Other things like music opportunities, if you're interested in joining a musical ensemble, if you're participating in varsity athletics, how to register for that course, physical education courses, if you're interested in things like study abroad and research, pre-health, pre-law, all that information is contained within the first year registration guide. And this year, we're happy to be offering the guide to you in a web-based format that we feel is very easy to navigate. So we hope you'll feel comfortable spending a lot of time reading through it. Other things, one of the common questions, again, sort of along these lines is, how will I know what I should register for? And again, it starts with looking at the information that's available to you through the first year registration guide. So as you think about what your academic interests are, you want to be browsing the information that's in the registration guide related to those fields of study. There were registration help videos that the faculty are producing. We are making those available to you through the new student checklist. So we will have those available to you in the coming days, and you'll be able to access those and see what faculty advisors from those various departments and programs are recommending that you do or consider when you're making your fall semester schedule. Other things you want to think about, if you're anticipating any AP or IB or college level credit, again, as I mentioned before, we expect those scores to be posted in early July, so you'll have some time before you start registering on July 12th to know what credit you've earned and sort of how that might fit in to some of the decisions you're making for the fall semester. But at this moment, if you're expecting to earn certain credits, you can sort of start planning your courses along those lines as if you will earn that credit, and that'll help you sort of figure out where to begin. And of course, you want to look at the schedule of classes and available courses, the days, the times, the course descriptions, and prerequisites. All that information is available through the schedule of classes. So more than just a title, more than just a day, time, and location, you can click on information in the schedule of classes to read a complete description of the course. And that might be helpful to you as you're deciding some courses to take for the fall, if depending on the choices that you have to make. But most importantly, I think we just want to encourage you again to ask us questions. We know that the process of getting familiar with the different, aspects of registration, whether it's sort of the functional processes or it's understanding requirements or it's sort of knowing where to begin in a particular sequence or something like that. We know you're going to have questions. We expect you're going to have questions, and we really just want you to feel comfortable contacting us and speaking with us, whether that's through phone or through email. Myself, Aaron, other coordinators in our office, other staff that are in our office. We have a set of upper class students who are working with us this summer who have been there, done that, and can provide information. So we're all just sort of standing by, waiting to hear from you and give you that guidance or that information that you need. So Aaron's going to talk a little bit more specifically, sort of bigger picture about how you're going to be advised.
Okay, so, we want to provide advising opportunities for you starting now. And in order to accomplish that, we've built the first year registration guide that has a schedule recommendations brought to you directly from each of the departments, as well as the registration help videos that Michael referenced. just a minute ago. The undergraduate studies staff, not just the first year team, but all the staff in our office are ready and willing to be of help for you as you kind of navigate your experience this summer. And you can contact us via phone or email. But once you arrive to campus, the advising doesn't stop. We have advising opportunities for you during orientation, where you'll meet as a group with your faculty advisor, and you also have some one-on-one time with your faculty advisor, during which you can talk a little bit about your interests, ask questions from them, get advice that you may be seeking. And then throughout the school year and your career here at Case Western Reserve University, you'll also work with your advisors, your faculty advisors, and departmental advisors to kind of understand where you're going and how you're getting there.
So right now what I'd like to do is just sort of talk through a couple of the sample schedules. These are schedules that you would find similar to the schedules you would find in the first year registration guide, and just sort of talk through them so that you understand sort of how to make meaning of those schedules. So if you look at, this is a sample schedule for aerospace engineering, you'll see that there's a fall and a spring semester recommended schedule. You have courses like Sage's first seminar that everybody will take in the first semester. A math choice to make, basically depending on where you place. So you'll take, the math diagnostic, for example, and that'll tell you either math 120 or 121 or 125. The students who had credit for a particular math course might, choose to move into the next level. So that's why it's given a range of options there. Chemistry 111, which is a chemistry for engineers course. And then below that, a choice to be made between Physics 121 or Engineering 131. So there'll be several different, this is an example of several different majors that you'll come across if you're looking through the registration guide where, there are choices to be made depending on where you place or depending on other sort of characteristics. In this case, for a student who is eligible for Physics 121, the department would recommend that you begin in Physics 121, and then you would take either Physics 121 or Engineering 131 in the spring semester, along with maybe Physics 122, depending on, other characteristics, other aspects of your decision making. Again, this is just sort of a close-up here. So if I were a student starting off in aerospace engineering, I know I would have a first seminar. I would choose a math course depending on my placement level. I would take Chemistry 111, unless for some reason maybe I had credit for Chem 111 through AP or something like that. I might choose another course in that place. And then a decision between Physics 121 and Engineering 131, again, depending on where I place in math. If I was starting out in pre-calculus, I would take Engineering 131 in the fall and pick up Physics 121 in the spring. If I were eligible for Physics 121, I would begin with that and then take Engineering 131 in the spring semester. So one thing you'll notice when you look through these schedule recommendations is that they will all sort of total in the 14 to 17 credit hour range for your first semester. And that's not by accident. We, in the Office of Undergraduate Studies, have been working with students over long periods of time. In our collective experience, as well as some data backing that up, will suggest that the appropriate level or appropriate course load for a first-year student in their first semester is in the range of 14 to 17 credit hours. So some of you may be looking at some of these schedules and thinking to yourself, there's only 4 courses listed here, or 15, 16 credit hours doesn't seem like that much. You should take our advice and trust us when we say that you'll want to start off with a more moderate, more manageable course load in the first semester, and starting off in a 14 to 17 hour load for the first semester is what we recommend. And if you think about it, over the course of 8 semesters, if you stay in the 14 to 17 hour range, by the time 8 semesters is completed, you will end up in the 120, 124 hour range, which is exactly where you need to be at the end of 8 semesters to earn a degree from Case Western Reserve University. So just to sort of contrast the engineering schedule, we have an example here of the psychology schedule, which is a little bit more open-ended. So you can see where in engineering, it was sort of about, placement and where do I start and, making progress in sequences. In a discipline like psychology or others in, the social sciences, humanities, or even in other programs as well, you'll see that there may be one or two, recommended courses, but the rest is, fairly open-ended. So this is an opportunity for you to explore different courses through general education requirements or electives. You can see with the Sages First Seminar, that's, of course, a standard there, an introductory course, Psych 101. And then you have, some choices to make within, the general education curriculum in arts and sciences, arts and humanities courses, social sciences, natural mathematical science courses. And again, the options for those courses are outlined in the general education section of the arts and sciences schedule recommendations in the first year registration guide.
So, in order to register, you'll want to access the student information system. You want to access this system sometime after July 1st before registration in order to update your emergency contact information. You will not be able to proceed in the registration process until you do so. And in this system, you will utilize the course ad process, the shopping cart, and the schedule of classes to kind of put together your ideal schedule for the fall. And then you can do that in preparation for the registration timeline, but you'll want to make sure you log back in and validate your shopping cart to make sure that the courses that you've selected are applicable to your situation, that there are no course conflicts. And once that's been validated, you'll be able to register for your courses when the registration window opens. All these instructions on how to navigate the student information system, to utilize the shopping cart, suggested courses, how to use the schedule of classes are available in the first year registration guide. And again, you've heard it before and you'll continue hearing it. We're available via email at summerreghelp@case.edu or by contacting the office via phone throughout the summer if you have questions leading up to registration and throughout registration.
Just one, final set of information before we move into your questions. We want to, sort of go into a little bit more detail about the first seminar selection process. So again, as I mentioned, when you go into SIS on July 12th, or anytime during the July 12th through 15th registration period, you'll register for everything but first seminar. Once you've registered for the courses other than first seminar and SIS, you will then go to the new student checklist, and you will go to the SAGES item on the checklist, and that will generate a list of courses for you based on your existing class schedule in SIS. So it'll, generate a list of, let's say, 30 to 40 or so seminars, roughly. And you'll look through those list of seminars, and you'll look at the course descriptions for each one, and you'll indicate for us 4 seminars that you would be interested in taking in the fall. And so it's important to understand that, this is your SAGES first seminar. It's not necessarily meant to be connected to your particular major, but it's also something that's an opportunity for you to explore something that you're interested in, a topic that either you want to learn more about, or even just something that piques your curiosity. After you spend some time, choosing those seminars, understand that if you do happen to go back into the SIS system and make a change to your schedule, you'll just need to go back to this to the new student checklist and update your first seminar selections again to make sure that they don't conflict with any of your courses in SIS. So the seminar selection process has been designed to make sure that there aren't any time conflicts. But it's also been designed to be flexible so that if you are looking at your list of seminar choices the first time around and you have any choices to be made with any courses that are on your schedule, you can go back and make those changes to your schedule and then generate a new list of seminar choices if you'd like to make something else available to you. This is just sort of a graphic of what the portal will look like when you go into it. So again, you'll get to see what the title of the seminar is, the days and times that it's being offered, as well as a detailed description of what's going to be covered in the course. And the cool thing about the course is that, it's a small course. It's capped at 17 students. So you have the opportunity to engage in frequent discussions around this particular topic with other students. in a more intimate setting. So that way you get to know each other really well, you develop a lot of relationships, and hopefully the dialogue can be sort of, in depth and meaningful and sort of, and in some ways maybe even challenging, but in a good way, to help you grow and learn and develop as a scholar. So just some last tips to be considered as you're thinking about when you'll actually go in and make your first seminar choices. Again, the first seminar selection process is not a first come, first serve sort of situation. So we will take your 4 choices and make sure that you're placed into one of those 4. And we do that intentionally because we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to take a seminar that they're interested in. So as you go into the seminar portal and make your 4 choices, understand that there's no rush to do that. You have until the 15th to make those choices, so you have plenty of time to read over the seminar descriptions and find 4 that you're really interested in. As I said before, you want to find a seminar that matches your interests. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to align with your intended major. In fact, you might choose to use this as an opportunity to do something beyond your major. Your major is going to give you an opportunity to study a particular subject in depth. You'll have plenty of opportunities for that in the future. But SAGE's seminars and all the rest of general education really is an opportunity for you to expand your horizons and take something different, take something new, take something that is going to sort of challenge you a little bit or allow you to explore an interest that's not necessarily something you're going to major in, but go a little bit more in depth with that. A couple things you want to avoid doing, just, again, don't attempt to register for the first seminars in SIS. SIS won't allow you to register for seminars because, again, it's not the same process. Don't request permission for a first seminar in SIS. And also, want to make sure that if you're going to use the shopping cart feature, don't place SAGE's first seminars in your shopping cart because you're not going to be able to register for them through SIS anyway. You can use the schedule of classes, though, to preview the list of available SAGE's first seminars now if you'd like. So you can look in the categories of FSSO, FSSY, or FSNA to see the list of SAGE's courses that are being offered in those different topical areas and review the course descriptions. So with all of that said, we're sure that you have lots of questions that you'd like to have answered. So we want to use the rest of the time that we have with you this evening to answer those questions. So if you haven't sent them in yet, now's a great time to do that. You can email them to summerreghelp@case.edu with the subject line info session, and Dean DiUlio will be happy to read them on air so that we can answer them for you.
Okay, great information. Thanks, guys. We do have a question that's come in by our Summer Reg Help email, and the question is from Alan. And Alan, first of all, he says, hello, info session. So hello, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
He has a question about AP credit. Alan received a 5 on the AP biology exam and looked at the AP equivalency chart and notes that he will earn credit for biology 200 TR with that AP credit. Does this mean he's exempt from Bio 214, 214L, 215, and 215L? Really what he wants to know is what biology classes will he be enrolling in?
It's a great question, Alan. So thanks for that. And let me just start off by saying that if you're thinking about planning your schedule around AP credit, you can find all those AP equivalencies in the first year registration guide. But in this case, in particular with biology, the biology credit that a student earns for a 5 on AP Bio is Bio 200 TR. So you do earn 3 credit hours of 200 level biology credit, but that's general credit and it doesn't map on to any of our biology core courses. So any student who has AP biology will still need to take all of the biology core classes. That's Bio 214, 215, and 216, and the associated labs if those are required for your major or for pre-health requirements.
And your mic's open, go ahead.
Okay, sounds great. So I have another question regarding, AP credits and proficiency exams. So the question comes in from Greg. What's the difference between a placement and a proficiency exam, and should I take a proficiency exam?
Well, thanks, Greg. And I think the main difference between the placement and the proficiency is that with the proficiency exam, that's an exam that students can take to actually earn course credit. There are a few different departments that offer proficiency exams. So they have proficiency exams in math, chemistry, physics, and computer science. And you can read more about those in the first year registration guide. But those are offered during new student orientation. If you were to take a proficiency exam and pass one, you would earn credit for the course that you passed the proficiency for. So if you, for example, took the Math 121 proficiency and passed it, you would earn credit for Math 121, which is Calc 1. A placement exam is not something that you take to earn credit. It's just something that you take in order to determine where you should begin your study. So everyone takes a math diagnostic, and that's a placement exam. And again, I mentioned the language placement exams. Students don't earn credit from those, but that just tells them, what the appropriate level is to begin their study of a language at Case Western Reserve. So the question of should I take a proficiency, I think that's really sort of an individual decision. But in general, you might choose to take a proficiency exam if you say have had extended study in a particular subject and feel as though you could earn credit for it, because essentially what you're doing when you're taking a proficiency exam is you're taking what's equivalent to the final exam for the course. So it's something that you take in order to show that you understand all of that material. And again, if you pass a proficiency, then we'll sort of reward that knowledge by giving you course credit.
Okay, great, thanks. I have another question that's come in. I noticed that there are different versions of calculus. So I see Math 121, Math 122, Math 125, Math 126, Math 223. How do I know which of those to choose?
So there are, in the first year registration guide, there is a section that talks about choosing the most appropriate math class for you. And you'll find the descriptions for those classes, as well as information as to what are the prerequisite requirements in terms of knowledge and skills that are needed to be successful in those classes. And so I think that would be the best place to kind of look for that information.
Okay, great. I have another question that's come in from a student, Huang, who is interested in pre-med preparation and wants to know, is there a biochemistry or chemistry course that's more suitable for first semester pre-med students?
That's a great question. So if you look in the first year registration guide, you'll see there's a section of that devoted to students who are interested in pre-health sciences. So if you look at the pre-health section of the first year registration guide, there's different recommendations for chemistry courses depending on what a student's primary major is. So the thing to keep in mind is that pre-health or pre-med is not a major. You would choose a major beyond that while completing, pre-med or pre-dental or, pre-whatever health science we're talking about requirements. And so in this case, we would look at what the requirements were for the biochemistry major or a chemistry major. And we would look at, the chemistry suggestions, and we would also look at the first year registration guide pre-health recommendations and make sure that aligned. And there are sections in the first year registration guide, the pre-health section, that specifically address course considerations for different kinds of majors. So anyone in the biological sciences would take, Chem 105 or Chem 111, depending on what the requirements for their particular major were. But either of those sequences would satisfy requirements for pre-health equally.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have another question that's come in from Sarah. And Sarah wants to know, how do I know where to start in a language course if there's not a placement exam for the language that I want to study?
So there's a placement guide in the registration guide that sort of gives a rough equivalent for where you should begin your study depending on sort of what your background is in that language. So depending on the number of years of study that you've had in the language will sort of give you a rough placement as to where you should start for the fall. Now, the thing to consider and I guess keep in mind as you're going through this process is that during the first 2 weeks of the semester is the drop add period. And so during the drop add period, you can freely add and drop courses. And in language courses in particular, you can assume that the instructors are going to be doing some things in those, early class meetings to make sure that the students who are in those classes are in the appropriate levels. So if you, do some self-placement and you start off in, let's say, a 201 course, and during the first week or so, the instructor decides that you're actually more qualified for a higher level course, or maybe would be more comfortable in a lower level course, they'll make that suggestion to you, and then you'll have an opportunity, because it's a drop add period, to change into the next level course. But at the moment, if there's not a diagnostic exam for that language, just do the best that you can based on the recommendations that are in the first year registration guide.
Thank you. I have a question that's come in from Anna about AP, IB, or college credit, wanting to know, how do I know if a case has received my scores?
So once the AP, IB, or college credit has been received and processed, it'll be reflected in SIS, in course history, and as well as the IP and AB credits will be reflected in the new student checklist. So you can check in both of those places to see if it's been processed, and it'll show up there.
Thank you. I have a question that's come in from James, and James would like a little more information on who will be his academic advisor in the fall.
So your academic advisor in your first year is the SAGES seminar instructor that you have. They're your SAGES advisor, and they'll work with you until you declare a major. And at that point, you will be assigned a major by the department within the department of your major.
Great, thank you. I have another question that's come in on email from Calvin. And Calvin notes that in the first year registration guide, there are recommendations for students interested in research. And one of those recommendations is to take a 4-part responsible conduct of research seminar session during the first year. Calvin is wondering if there's any more information on those sessions, and where could Calvin learn more about those seminars?
So the responsible research conduct programs are offered through our source office, which is indicated. Contact information is indicated in that section of the registration guide. So I know that the plan is, as you might have noticed already throughout the summer, you're going to be getting these first year information newsletters every other week on Thursdays. And that'll continue during the fall semester. So if you check out the first year information newsletter on Thursdays, at some point in the coming weeks or months, you'll find there'll be a posting about information for signing up for that research conduct series. But if you would like some advanced information, you might be able to find some of that on the source website. Or if you go to the source website, you can find contact information for the source director or the department assistant, and contact one of those people, and they will be able to provide you with more information, at least whatever information they have available to them at this point in time.
Great, thank you. I have a question that's come in from Ramya. And Ramya needs a little further explanation of the placement versus proficiency exam with regard to math. So Ramya would like to enroll in Math 121 and wants to know, do I need to take a math proficiency exam even though she's already completed the math placement exam?
Great question. So yeah, I'm happy to take the opportunity to clarify that. So the difference with regard to math specifically, because I know it can get a little bit confusing given that we have a placement exam and also a proficiency exam for math specifically. When it comes to the math diagnostic, every student is going to take the math diagnostic exam, regardless of their intended major and whether or not that major includes any math requirements. So everyone will take the diagnostic, and what the diagnostic will tell a student is whether they are eligible to begin their study of calculus at the pre-calculus level or at the calculus level. So it's either going to tell you you must begin in Math 120, or you can have the option to begin in Math 121 or 125 in the fall. And Math 121 and 125 are different variations of Calculus 1. So that's what the math diagnostic is for, is to tell you whether to begin in pre-calc or calculus. So if a student only takes the diagnostic, they'll have those options available to them. Now, if a student feels that they could begin in Calculus 2, but don't have credit for Calc 1 otherwise, which would be through, AP, IB, or some transfer credit, they'll have the opportunity to sit for the Math 121 proficiency exam during new student orientation. So that's an additional exam that you have the option to take if you feel like you have mastered the content of Calculus 1 and would like to be eligible to move into Calculus 2 for the fall semester. So again, the diagnostic is something that everyone will take regardless of, what their intentions are. But the proficiency exam is something that a student would only take if they felt that they were, competent enough in the subject that's covered in Math 121 and eligible to earn credit for that course. So just to give you an idea, very few students end up taking the math proficiency exams in the fall simply because they either go based on their placement or prior credits earned. But there are occasions where students, may be eligible to earn credit, may have the background and the knowledge, and will go ahead and sit for that proficiency exam come orientation time. And that's an option that you have.
Great, thank you. We have a question that's come in from Bara, and Bara is not sure whether or not to pursue a BA or a BS in biology, and would like to know when to begin worrying about the difference between these two degrees, or if there is a difference, or where there's more information to understand the difference.
So, first-year students will have the opportunity to declare a major officially beginning sometime in November in the first semester, but they don't have to declare a major until sometime in the end of their second year. And so I would say you have plenty of time to wait until you have to start worrying about the differences, but that information is available. If the specific answer is not available in the registration guide, once you arrive to campus, you'll have access to the course bulletin, and that's updated with all the requirements for each of the degrees and majors that are here at Case Western Reserve University. And you'll also have opportunity to contact the departmental advisors or departmental representatives for those specific majors for the BA and BS to kind of discuss what are the distinctions between those course sequences and understanding better what your intentions are now and in the future. They might be able to help you make those decisions.
Just to add something to that, with biology in particular, there really aren't any distinctions to be made in the first year if you're looking in the registration guide. Occasionally there are some distinctions between a BA and a BS path that are in the first year. And as Aaron mentioned, that would be noted in the registration guide. So if you're looking at a major and it had, a BA and a BS option and there were different choices to be made for, let's say, a math sequence, in the registration guide, it would note, choose 125 for the BA or choose 121 math for the BS. And if you're in a situation where at this moment in time you don't really know which route you want to pursue, if you choose the requirements that are set up for the BS option, those will cover the requirements for the BA. So you can always sort of default back to the BS options if there is a distinction. And then if you choose later on to go to the BA route, then those courses that you took for the BS will still cover the BA requirements. But if you have specific questions about a particular program and you're not sure how to, make meaning of what's written in the guide, the easiest thing to do is just to email our office, summeredgehelp@case.edu, and we can help you sort that out.
Great, thanks. Another question's come in about minors. When to think about what minor a student might want to choose, and information on the courses required for a particular minor.
Well, so minors are typically 15 to 18 credit hours, so it's, about 5 or 6 courses. So generally, students don't really need to start worrying about those until later on. However, if you're just sort of curious about what courses are required for a particular minor, You can look at the general bulletin, and you can find in there in the different sections for the various departments, if they offer a minor in their discipline, what those requirements are. And there are some things that you may be able to begin taking your first semester or even your first year. But by and large, minors are something that students usually begin work on at a point after their first year. Although you could start sooner depending on what the minor is and if you have room in your schedule or not.
Great, thank you. I have a question that's come in from Jeff, and Jeff would like to major in psychology, but notice that there's only one course in that subject in the first semester. Why is that?
So, it kind of comes back to the course sequences that were displayed earlier in the presentation. There are going to be some distinctions between recommendations for majors, including psychology, and psychology, along with that, in that example sequence, provided space for some general education courses in the humanities, natural and mathematical sciences, quantitative reasoning, global and diversity, those types of requirements to allow space for students to kind of explore a lot of aspects of the academic realm. And then, after achieving the introductory course to psychology, really then taking opportunities to explore other aspects of the psychological, academic offerings for students. And so I think, it really comes down to exploring a little bit more of those general education, and then working with your advisor to kind of figure out what the next step is after your first semester. You'll be able to have other opportunities to take courses in the psychology major. And I think the classes in the psychology major will want you to have a baseline understanding of general, psychology requirements. And that means that course is what is considered a prereq for those other courses. And so if you see that in the course descriptions, the term prereq, it means that you need to have completed that course before you begin the next course, because the next course is going to build upon the knowledge and skills that you've gained in that prerequisite course.
Great, thank you. What happens if I find two courses I want to take, but they're offered at the same time? Can I register for both?
It's a good question, and unfortunately the answer is no. So you can't be in two places at once, right? And we want you to be in class every day. And so if you have two courses that are offered at the same time, you'll have to choose, one or the other. But that doesn't mean that you can't take both courses, assuming that one of the courses has an alternate time slot. So there are occasions where you might have two courses that you really want to take, but they're both only offered once during the semester, and they're both offered at the same time. And though it's unfortunate, you will have to make a decision between the two. If you're concerned about, which one to choose, or you want to make sure that if you choose one now, that the other one will be offered later in the following semester, you can definitely contact our office and we can talk you through that. But if there happens to be, let's say, one of those two courses has 2 or 3 or various other sort of times and days offered, hopefully you can choose one of those other sections and make that fit with the rest of your schedule so you could potentially take both of those classes.
Okay, great, thank you. I see that on our live chat stream, we have a question that comes in from a student that says, I just logged on. Is there any way to view this video later?
There is, actually. So we will be archiving this session, and it will be available to you through the new student checklist. You can link to a part of our undergraduate studies website where we host not only the archives of these live webinars, but also the registration help videos that have been created by the faculty in various majors and departments. So yes, within a couple of days, we hope that this archive will be available, and you can view it back from the beginning, and you can view it as many times as you want. Start, stop, pause, whatever you need to do.
Okay, great. And our last question for the evening comes from Denise. And Denise is wondering, how many classes or credit hours should I be taking in my first semester?
Sure. So, as Michael mentioned earlier in the presentation, we expect that students are going to be taking between 14 and 17 credit hours in their first semester. And this you'll see reflected in the recommendations in the first year registration guide. For the various disciplines, you'll see that the total will sum to 14 to 17 credit hours. Students can take a few less, can take a few more, but we found, as through the collective experience of the Office of Undergraduate Studies, that those students that are in that range find themselves having ample time to dedicate to those courses and really be as successful as possible. And if you have other questions about policies related to course load, you can find those as well online either in the registration guide or in the general bulletin.
And just to, tag on to that, it's for us, it's about you getting off to the best start that you possibly can in the fall semester. And we know that there are a lot of sort of transitions that you'll be working your way through, not just on the academic front, but, getting adjusted to campus life in general. For many of you, being away from home for the first time, starting to manage aspects of your life sort of on a more independent level. And so you have to allow time for that. You also need to allow time for exploring other interests that you have outside the classroom and taking advantage of other opportunities and really just trying to have, a rich college experience, which includes things like social time and exercise and other things that, you need hours in the day to be able to do. And if you're taking, the maximum number of courses each semester, you'll find it hard to be able to fit all those things in. So that's really what that recommendation is all about. So at this point, I think we'd like to conclude by saying that we look forward to seeing you all here in the fall. But before then, you should always feel comfortable contacting our office with any questions that you might have. So again, our email address, summerreghelp@case.edu. You can call us on the phone. And we look forward to welcoming you to campus in August during new student orientation. Thanks for watching.